Part 185. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1846. Greet has been away from Nevis for more than 10 years. The three magician followers have each reached levels 13, 14, and 15. There are also a lot of disciples, students, and magicians working under them. Gretel's 12-story mage tower is gratifyingly filled up at last. Not only is it full, there are also some people who are not qualified to live in the mage tower. They can only come to work during the day and go back to their own residence at night. There are also some people who are not even qualified to do research in the mage tower and can only work in other cooperative mage towers, colleges, or even workshops. But now, in order to welcome Gretel's return, hundreds of people stood in a square formation in the square in front of the mage tower. The crowds were so crowded that Greet almost had an attack of trypophobia. For a moment, he had the urge to drag all these spellcasters to the hospital, have each of them undergo a physical examination, and get a physical examination file. At that time, by looking at who has what disease, you can probably identify the person. You don't need to remember these people. Seeing Gretel's very solemn face, Lin smiled and waved away the spellcasters lined up in front of him. Most of them are interns here, or hired to do work. Except for the people in the sorcerer's tower, just let the tower spirit control their authority. The only ones who will stay are a few of our disciples, combined less than 10 people. Thank God. It's great to have Tolling help. Gretel breathed a huge sigh of relief. He slowed down and walked through the crowd, giving the people in front of him time to remember his appearance, and went straight into the mage tower. After going up to the top floor, I placed my palm on the center of the mage tower, and immediately heard the familiar, flat mechanical sound. Ma salutes you, Master. Welcome back. I haven't heard it for many years. I haven't heard it for many, many years. Gretel let out a long breath. He tapped the tower spirit center and asked Moss to project the directory of data stored inside and scan it at a glance. After more than 10 years, what was stored in Moss was no longer the pitiful thing before he left, but was divided into many fields such as medical treatment, necromancy, energy evocation, alchemy, and basic research. In the medical field alone, there are bacteria, antibacterial drugs, vaccines, injuries, diseases, pregnancy, and childbirth, basic examination data. There are numerous subdivision projects, and under the subdivision projects there are secondary subdivisions, third-level subdivisions, original data, and many other contents. Greet clicked all the way down and saw that there was a bunch of chromosome information and huge chromosome pictures. It's so huge that it actually took a full 5 seconds to unfold the details of the picture. Moss didn't know where the inspiration came from, so he actually made a small hourglass, spinning around and around on the picture. Is this because the computing power is not enough? This is definitely because the computing power is not enough. I need to upgrade it later and add 2 memory sticks. No, it seems that I need to add a chip. What is the chip that Tolling needs to add to increase its computing power? Moss, ask Ashu to connect with you later and give you all the information accumulated over the years. Gretel issued the order with satisfaction. Although Moss can connect with the Babel Tower Spirit and Mr. Herman Cruz at any time and retrieve all the papers and materials of the Parliament, only its own unique information is the foundation of its faction. He has been outside for more than 10 years and has researched so much data. If he inputs it by himself, he really doesn't know when it will be input. We can only let Ashu directly connect to Moss and dump all the data stored in the tree fruit. Master, Moss can no longer let go. The Tower Spirit Center tried its best to dodge, and then projected another picture. A huge glass tank was already filled with 80% to 90% water, and water was still pouring into it. Of course, there is a pipe under the sink that is connected to a huge tower very far away, but this does not change the fact that the storage system of the tower spirit itself is almost full, and there is almost no room left. Gretel. Moss, wait a minute. I'll go back and find someone to upgrade the mage tower. Once the upgrade is complete, put the data in it. It will be able to be put in by then. Gretel turned and left. At the reception banquet that night, he asked about upgrading the mage tower. I proposed to the council 3 months ago that I wanted to upgrade the mage tower. Before I left, I heard they said they had finalized the upgrade plan. I'm back now, why haven't I finished it yet? How long is this going to take? As soon as the words came out, Lynn, Aurora and Mr. Norwood smiled bitterly at each other. Gretel opened his mouth, but the person below him ran away and broke his leg. The council really paid great attention to Gretel's request and quickly finalized the plan. Mr. Norwood personally discussed the construction process of upgrading the mage tower with the archmage of the change department. However, all good things are hard to come by. Half a month ago, Aurora went to her teacher to attend a regular academic meeting and mentioned something about upgrading the mage tower, which happened to be overheard by His Excellency Crown of the Sun. Without even thinking about it, the senior brother made the decision for his junior brother and modified the mage tower upgrade plan. What magic veins? What drains from the Tower of Babel? What improves the energy supply of the mage tower? Little Greet's mage tower doesn't need that. Wait, when I finish this one, I will come directly to build a well of eternity. Gretel? What? The well of eternity? Use the well of eternity to power a mage tower? So, my mage tower will soon be used in a nuclear power plant? In any case, the energy supply of a well of eternity is probably equivalent to the entire Tower of Babel. Gretel could build the mage tower to 50 or 60 floors, with each floor covering 5 to 6,000 square meters. It would not be a problem to accommodate tens of thousands of people working inside. Spell experiments of the 5th, 6th, and 7th or 8th levels can be done whenever you want, without any restrictions on energy supply or the need to queue. When a high-level mage enters the meditation room to absorb energy, he can open 2 rooms at once, occupying one for himself and leaving the other room free. The mysterious lock outside the mage tower extends to several square kilometers, so there is no problem. Then let's wait until senior brother is free. Gretel took a deep breath. After the well of eternity is built, let's upgrade the tower spirit. This time, it will reach half a legendary level in one go. The legendary tower spirit needs to be upgraded by the owner himself, and cannot be upgraded by others, otherwise it will be easy to turn against the customer. Hey, when Langer's legendary side makes a breakthrough in research, let him get a huge semiconductor storage device and connect it to the tower spirit. When one is full, another one will be connected, and when one is full, another one will be connected. You will never have to worry about insufficient hard drives. Fortunately, Gretel's current focus is not on the mage tower, but on the hospital. After the reception banquet that day, Gretel went straight to Oak Grove Hospital the next day. When he stepped into the hospital, he saw an older nobleman with a white beard and white hair, wearing an awe-inspiring aura, sitting in the hall with a young couple. With a straight face and full of anger. Have you guys discussed it yet? My great-grandson is gone, and you have to give me an explanation no matter what. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 1847. What's the situation? Did you encounter medical trouble just after you came back? Well, it cannot be directly characterized as medical trouble. After all, his great-grandson is really dead, and he has not received a clear statement from the hospital so far. Only using illegal means to hype up medical disputes and obtain illegal benefits is called medical trouble. Complaining and demanding compensation through legal channels cannot be called medical trouble at all. What's going on? Gretel asked in a deep voice. With a flick of the brush, the entire hall fell silent, and everyone looked towards him. The man in the white coat, who was sweating profusely and facing the old man, his eyes lit up and he shouted as if he saw a savior. Mage Nordmark! Mage Nordmark! The old man was stunned for a moment, paused, turned around, and walked over quickly. Gretel has already stepped forward solemnly. Hello, I am Gretel Nordmark, founder and director of Oak Grove Hospital. I just returned to Nevis yesterday. What happened? Can we talk to me in my office? A person's name, the shadow of a tree. Over the years, although Gretel has not been in Nevis, Nevis is full of legends about him. And, if you don't even know his current situation, then this person is basically far away from the upper class, and Gretel can definitely afford to offend him. Not to mention, in order to improve communication efficiency, Gretel specially wore a magician's exclusive badge when he came to the hospital today. 3 diamond stars represent an 18th level magician, 4 diamond rings represent a 9th level arcanist. Even people who don't know him or have never heard of his name can calm down their heated heads when they see this badge. As Greet wished, the angry white-haired old man calmed down. He took a step back and looked at Gretel, his eyes circling around the mage badge on his chest, the powerful mage robe on his body, and the seemingly grey and inconspicuous oak staff in his hand. The look on his face, the anger is getting lighter and lighter. Archmage Nordmark. He looked respectful and bowed. Long time greeting. I am the Earl of Sutherland, and this is my grandson and granddaughter-in-law. Then, let's talk somewhere else. Fortunately, okay, if you are willing to talk in the office, there will be room for communication and resolution. He just said, this old nobleman should look like a celestial knight. Since he is a strong man, he should be able to sense his strength and not start a fight on the spot. By the way, the Earl of Sutherland and the aristocratic territory where the Nevis area is located, seem to be not far away. 2 counts apart. Bringing your great-grandson to see him for medical treatment is not too inconvenient. The 2 parties entered Greet's office, and the guest and host took their seats. The old count sat in the middle of the sofa, put his hands on his knees, straightened his back, and without even leaning on the sofa, he immediately spoke. Master Nordmark, I have heard of your reputation and admire your charity and integrity. I leave it to your judgment on this matter. Whatever you say will be what it is. Don't be like this, you are putting all the pressure on me. It is better for both parties to have a special medical accident technical appraisal committee to conduct appraisals based on medical records. Gretel smiled bitterly in his heart, turned to the man in white coat who had previously received Earl Sutherland, and waved him away. Medical records? Come on. What's the point of pouring tea here? And who is this child's attending doctor? Call him over here. The white coat rushed out. Greet waved his magic hand and personally made tea for Earl Sutherland and his grandson and granddaughter-in-law, and summoned a plate of divine berries as a reception fruit. Seeing that all the guests were eating and drinking, he slowly said, Your Majesty, thank you for your trust in me. I am also very sorry for the child's misfortune, but I must explain. The human body is mysterious, and so far, there are still many problems that cannot be explained or solved by medicine. I can only guarantee that if it is the mistake of the therapist in this hospital, we will definitely compensate the patient if it is due and we will not hesitate. The old count nodded slightly. The pale woman on the far right side of the couch suddenly cried. It's not a baby, I was 8 months pregnant, 8 months. 8 months, I was about to give birth, and it fell out all of a sudden. It had been moving for a long time, kicking my stomach every day, playing with me, suddenly, disappeared all of a sudden. Gretel's face was solemn. Abortion, especially in the first trimester, is very harmful to the physical and psychological health of pregnant women. Even if this woman is a professional. Are you a professional? Ah, she should be a trainee priest. Feel the power in her, like the priest of the spring goddess. Considering her family background and so on, She is probably the kind of common aristocratic lady who goes to the temple to receive education and become a priest so that she can get married. May the great spring water goddess protect you and recover soon. Greet sighed and said, raising her hand. A soft soothing technique fell with a little light green light, hoping to calm the other party's mood. Unexpectedly, as soon as the magic came out, the poor mother who lost her child suddenly screamed. While screaming, she desperately shrank closer to her husband and deeper into the sofa. No. No, she screamed, her whole body trembling, and the blood on her face and lips completely faded. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I don't want to lose another child. My child, my child. What is the relationship between soothing techniques and children? Why would I lose my child after enduring the soothing technique? What did previous healers do? Gretel was full of questions. However, all he can do now is to step back immediately, lean back on the chair, and raise his hands. Okay, okay, I won't release the spell, I won't release the spell, he reassured. Madam, please be quiet and don't get too excited. Sir, could you please comfort your wife? Without Gretel's words, the young knight half turned around, hugged his wife, and whispered comfort. However, it was not very effective for a while. The mother who lost her child was still shaking, sobbing, and crying with tears on her face. Until the Earl of Sutherland had no choice but to point his finger, a light curtain waved out. Okay, as long as I'm here, no spell can fall on you. The light curtain was pale gold in color, condensed and never dispersed, covering the young couple's side tightly. Its power contained a sharp edge, which felt like sword energy. Being able to swing out a sword energy casually and condense it around the child is indeed the strength of the Sky Knight. Gretel admired in his heart, watching the young mother slowly calm down, finally letting out a sigh of relief and showing a smile. When he wanted to speak, the door was banged, and knocked hard several times. Master Nordmark. The medical records you requested are here. Come in. I want to see what the situation was, what the treatment was, and especially what kind of weird magic caused a pregnant woman to lose her child. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1848. Greet took the time to look through the medical records. 34 weeks pregnant, well, good, this recording method is correct. You know, medical calculation of pregnancy time is from the first day of the last menstrual period, which is different from the calculation for ordinary people. The pregnant woman reported that she was 8 months pregnant, and recorded that she was 34 weeks pregnant. It was very good, very consistent with the pregnant woman's self-report. The fetal heart rate is 165, tisk, it's a bit fast. We need to consider whether there is intrauterine hypoxia. The fetal movement occurs twice every 20 minutes. During the fetal movement, the fetal heart rate is 180. Gee, it seems that there is really some intrauterine hypoxia. It seems that the pregnant woman should be detained for a few days to receive oxygen. Lying on the left side seems to work too. Looking further down, the blood pressure of pregnant women is 145/95. She is young and thin. If she does not have high blood pressure, she has gestational hypertension. Gretel flicked his fingers, and then controlled his hand. He did not throw a monitoring spell to the other party, and took the blood pressure on the spot. Gestational diabetes, sorry, no blood test, fasting blood sugar, postprandial blood sugar, glucose tolerance, various tests. Alas, it is really uncomfortable to practice medicine in a medical desert. In particular, it is easy to go from frugality to luxury, but it is difficult to go from luxury to frugality. Looking further down, there is no more. Gretel glanced sideways. The patient's attending physician and first diagnosis doctor, a female therapist who came to the baby-friendly medical center for further training, looked embarrassed and whispered. I asked her to lie down and wanted to do an ultrasound to check the condition of the fetus. I don't know why, but as soon as I touched her, she suddenly became emotional and started crying. This wasn't there, and I don't know why. Greet glanced at the pregnant woman's husband and saw that his brows were furrowed, but he nodded slightly, knowing that his therapist's description of the situation was still accurate. What happened next? Later, I failed to comfort her. Seeing that she would hurt the fetus if she continued to be so excited, I released the soothing spell and charm human being. Because the pregnant woman was particularly emotional and instinctively resisted the spells, I could only use a few more spells. The female therapist looked aggrieved and confused. I was soothed at that time, but the fetus fell out not long after I returned. They said it was because of my problem with releasing the spell. How is that possible? Soothing spells and charming humans are two spells that I am very familiar with. It is absolutely impossible to release them. Incorrect. But that's what the oracle said. The female priest, who had gradually become quiet in her husband's arms, suddenly started struggling and screamed again, with tears on her face. I asked my mentor, a familiar sister, to go to the great temple and ask for an oracle. The oracle said that the child was lost because of a spell. You still don't admit it? You still don't admit it? This is the oracle of the goddess. Wait, Gretel raised his hands and pressed down hard. Madam, calm down, calm down. Little Earl of Sutherland? Please comfort your wife. Without him having to say anything, the young knight hugged his wife again and whispered comforting words. The old earl said in a deep voice. I didn't dare to make a rash judgment when it came to the hospital and the temple, so I went to the grand temple in Nevis to ask for an oracle again. This time the result was the same, the loss of the child was directly related to this lady's spellcasting. Greet frowned and pondered. When it comes to the oracle, he believes that the other party will not lie, at least the probability of lying is very small. It's not like he doesn't have connections in the grand temple of the spring goddess. He can tell by writing a letter and asking. However, how can spells with almost no lethality, such as soothing and charming humans, cause a pregnant woman to lose her child? Have you verified it? He turned to the attending physician and the white coat responsible for receiving the count. The two healers shook their heads together. We checked all the papers we could find, and also consulted the Archmage X-Laban, and all the healers we could find. We couldn't find that these two spells have any effect and will cause pregnant women to lose their children. It's not who you are, the old count said angrily. It's not like the charm human spell can't make people do things that are not good for them. Who knows what you did? Who knows what instructions you gave when you cast the spell dash? I didn't. Tears welled up in the female therapist's eyes. She had to hold back her tears, but her voice also became sharp. I just want her to have a better impression of me and be able to calm down and listen to me. How could I harm her? The charm human spell cannot make people do things that are not good for them, such as committing suicide or self-mutilation. You know it? The oracle said so. Stop. Gretel raised his hands with a headache on his face. With such a quarrel, he could only interrupt first. In other words, apart from translating medical books and papers, you haven't done any other verification. We also released Detect Lies. When she cast the spell, she did not issue instructions to harm pregnant women or fetuses. Okay, I've already passed the lie detector test, so I won't say anything else. Gretel sighed and tried to use his brain. If it wasn't a casting error or intentional harm, what was the reason? How many times have you used the soothing technique and it never seems to cause any problems? In theory, there shouldn't be any problem with charming humans. At most, It's just that this person has cast the spell too many times. How many times has she used it? It is written in the medical record that the soothing technique was used 3 times and the human being was charmed 5 times. Wait, what are the principles of the soothing technique and the charming human being? If it is the principle he thinks of, the spell has been cast too many times, maybe, but to verify this, it will take a very long time to study, and the patient's family may not be able to wait. Then, who do I know as the great mage of the prophecy system? Who is more familiar? Oops, it seems that all the people I know well are staying on Dragon Island. Wouldn't it be a good idea to go directly to MRS Ender? If it's just a small matter, you wouldn't ask Legend to take action, right? Where's Sarala? Sarala, please go to the Star Dome, find a prophecy mage you are familiar with, and ask him to divine. The child is gone. Is it because of the spell? If so, is it due to an error in the casting, or is it due to the spell itself? Okay. Go now. The silver dragon girl dashed away and dashed back. She has been serving as an observation instrument in the Star Dome for so long. After all, she has been working for such a long time, and her face is indeed extremely broad. Just a casual trip and the task was completed. MRS Elamo said that the reason why the child was gone was because of the spell. It was not that the caster had bad intentions or cast the spell wrong, but that it was a problem with the spell itself. Gretel stood up with an apologetic look. Although the caster did not make a mistake, due to reasons unknown to us, it was her casting that caused this lady to lose her child. This is the responsibility of our hospital, and the hospital must bear it. Alas, in fact, according to the rules of the previous life, as long as the doctor abides by the established treatment principles and does not misdiagnose or mistreat, if something beyond current medical understanding occurs, neither the doctor nor the hospital should be held responsible. Otherwise, everyone will stop working. But what to do in this world? The oracle has also said it, and the great mage of the prophecy department has also said it. That is the reason for casting the spell, and you still want to refuse to take responsibility? Then the reputation of the hospital will be ruined. Fortunately, with this attitude, most of the anger of the patient's family members was relieved. The old count pondered for a moment, then stood up with a smile. If it is proven that she has no bad intentions and did not intentionally harm the mother and child, it cannot be said to be your responsibility. In this way, we will ask the oracle again. If the oracle proves that it was not her fault in casting the spell, then we will not disturb you. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1849. The old count and his family left in a hurry. Greet was sent out of the hospital. When he came back, he saw 2 therapists looking worried. He smiled and comforted them. Don't worry, it's not your fault. As long as you are not at fault in casting the spell, it is not your responsibility. Even if there are some accidents for reasons we don't know yet, the hospital will not blame you for it. The female therapist breathed a sigh of relief. Greet turned to the white coat responsible for receiving guests. You have always protected your colleagues and done a good job. It's not your fault that you didn't ask for the prophecy archmage. But you can be more bold next time. You have to know that our hospital is very strong. If this happens next time, if I am not around, feel free to use my name to invite someone. The white coat murmured with shame, as if he wanted to say a few words to express his determination. The female therapist has already rushed to speak. But why? What why? Why did my magic, or magic, happen like this? It caused the pregnant woman to activate early, but was unable to give birth, and ended up losing her child. Why on earth? You want to know? Greet's eyes flashed. Coincidentally, he also wanted to know this question, but today, it is no longer possible for him to study every topic personally. What's your name? What level of Arcanist and level of Mage are you? What papers have you published before? By the way, whose disciple are you? The female therapist was surprised and happy to be questioned by the boss. She faced the envious eyes of the man in the white coat next to her and replied in a rapid-fire manner. My name is Jalaya Singer. A 4th level Arcanist and a 5th level Mage. I have published 5 papers before, including one in medical research, entitled The Combination of Tranquility and Inspiration Techniques Study on the Effects of Maternal Blood Pressure. As for the disciple, I am just a student of the Conjuration Department, and I am not specifically accepted as a disciple by anyone. A 4th ring Arcanist can basically be converted into a 7th level to 8th level magician. The arcane level is obviously higher than the magic level. Before the emergence of life, medical research was basically equivalent to the top journal in the medical field, with a guaranteed second area, which could be regarded as a first area in this field. And this paper, studies the effects of comfort, analgesia, antihypertensive techniques, and epinephrine combined with maternal blood pressure? Very good, very thoughtful. Greet was very satisfied. But in order to prevent her from becoming the kind of doctor in her previous life who could only do experiments and write papers but not see patients, he still contacted Tailing and retrieved Jalia's work records at Oak Grove Hospital. After studying in the hospital for 2 years, I delivered more than 2,000 women, an average of 3 per day throughout the year. The workload cannot be compared with that of Gretel's previous life, those midwives who delivered 7, 8, or 10 babies a day, and those doctors who performed more than a dozen cesarean sections a day. However, at Oak Grove Hospital, it is already significantly higher than that of the same period. Level. And the work record is also very good, whether it is the live birth rate, maternal survival rate, or the evaluation written by the superior doctor, there is nothing to criticize. Greet nodded and said. You want to study this topic? Yes. In this case, you first do a paper search. The focus is on the 2 spells of soothing and enchanting humans, and whether they produce any substances in the human body. This aspect of research? No. Jalaya replied. When she was searching for papers before, she searched with the keywords pacification technique and charming human beings. She was very sure that there were no papers in this field. Especially in the recent past, in the past 10 years, in the past 5 years, absolutely not. Oh, if not, just expand the search scope. Greet was a little disappointed. It was a pity that he couldn't use ready-made research, but he was not too disappointed. Search to see if other magic control spells, as well as spells related to human emotions, such as inspiration, fear, and joy, produce any substances in the human body. Then, regarding the measurement of substances in the human body and human blood, how many types and measurement methods have been discovered now? While he was talking, Jalia took out a small notebook and brushed her notes. Gretel thought for a while and sighed. Forget it, you can search it first. It would be best if there are relevant papers. If not, you have to do it yourself. Then, I will visit the Tower of Songs and bring in some confusion mages and necromancers. Do together. Is this okay? Jalia couldn't help but ask. Can we understand why these 2 spells cause pregnant women to lose their children? It's not that simple. Gretel chuckled. According to his estimation, if charming human is thrown away, the human body will secrete hormones, including oxytocin, dopamine, endorphins, and maybe estrogen and a lot of other things. To find out among the numerous components in the blood that a certain one or certain trace products have a significantly increased proportion is already a very large project. To confirm which one it is, the workload is even greater. Forget it, let me explain the idea of this research. Listen carefully. First, prove that soothing technique and / or charm humans will produce a certain substance in the human body. Well, this depends on the charm control department. They are experts in casting spells, and then, measuring trace substances in the blood. the necromancer department is an expert. I hope that after so many years, they have not broken up and are still working together. Secondly, it proves that this substance has a direct impact on human emotional changes. This in turn proves how the principle of this spell changes from consciousness to substance. It would be best if we could find a way to synthesize it artificially, and we could synthesize it in large quantities, and then find ways to use it. Again, measure soothing spell and / or charm human. Each standard spell will increase the amount of this trace substance in the human body. Finally, the content of this trace substance is measured in normal people, in pregnant women at various stages, and in pregnant women at various stages of delivery. Each stage is a huge workload. Just to measure the oxytocin content in the blood, he seemed to remember that there are many methods, such as immunohistochemistry, liquid chromatography. Then, how many people need to be measured to measure the content of this trace substance? Gretel felt that 100 people were not enough, and 100 people of each category was not enough. Without data accumulation for half a year and a year, do you want the data you get to have reference value? Go ahead and dream. If it can be proven that a large increase in this trace substance to a certain extent will prompt pregnant women to start labor, then the entire chain of evidence will be complete. Next, we must continue to study how much the substance can be increased to allow pregnant women with late labor to start labor normally. To what extent will it increase to an adverse effect on pregnant women, such as too severe uterine contractions, an increase in the rate of emergency labor and neonatal bruising and asphyxiation? By the way, remind me to go to the Department of Control and Control in the next 2 days. Just because the paper hasn't been published doesn't mean there's no relevant research. If someone is already doing it, wouldn't it be a waste of time to repeat the research? Yes, sir. Jalia's cheeks turned red with excitement. She hugged the small book and bowed vigorously. For her want to know, the Archmage Nordmark would actually go to the charm control system in person. Well, work harder. Gretel caught a coolie and was in a very beautiful mood. He smiled and encouraged Jalia. After these few steps are completed, you can publish a big paper in Life. If you have any difficulties, come and ask me. What department of magicians are needed to cooperate in research? Come and ask me. Don't bear it alone. I hope this girl can do it. If she can't do it, higher-level magicians will need to be introduced to participate in the research. The first author of this paper is not from our hospital. Double monthly pass starts tomorrow. Double monthly pass starts tomorrow. Everyone, keep your monthly votes and vote for cats tomorrow. Thanks to @bookfriend 202201161434233901 for the 100 starting coins reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 1850. Jalia spent a day in the large database of the Tower of Babel, and then took Gretel's note to spend a day in the Tower of Songs of the Charm and Control Department, and a day in the Tower of Sleeplessness in the Necromantic Department. On the fourth day, holding a thick stack of manuscripts and 2 dark circles under his eyes, he came to Greet crying. Sir, their research progress seems to be really not very good, there is nothing ready to use. Oh. Greet turned it over without any surprise. Very well, the collaboration between the necromancy and control systems, despite the unpleasant incident of being stabbed in the head with scissors, is still going on steadily. The fact that people are not dead is one aspect. Magicians of the necromancy and control systems have found ways to restrain themselves and get along with each other stably. Perhaps it is another aspect. In short, a lot of the information Jalia brought, including the information in the research, and the list of participants included magicians from both schools. And which school of thought is dominant? Greet flipped through it and found that their research directions were mainly focused on inspiration technique and horror technique, so he knew that the necromantic system was dominant. Well, if it is a charm control system, it should start with charm humans. but it doesn't matter, as long as he has the technical reserves he wants. Greed looked at the progress of these researches again and couldn't help but shed tears of sympathy for these researchers. First, they covered the subject's head with a silver mesh and found that it significantly weakened the spell effects of inspiration and terror. From this, they judged that these two spells should be achieved by stimulating the brain with radio waves. Then, they drew the blood of the recipients and found that after receiving these two spells, the levels of 7 or 8 substances in the blood increased significantly. There are several substances that have grown after receiving these two spells, and there are also individual substances whose growth does not coincide with each other. Finally, they drew the cerebrospinal fluid of the patient and found that the content of these substances in the cerebrospinal fluid was very low, some were almost non-existent. It can be inferred from this that these substances are not secreted by the brain and then conducted throughout the body. The necromancers tested the subject's blood, muscles, heart, and lungs, but could not find where the substance was abundantly concentrated. In other words, they could not find the source of their secretion. It's too awful. Gretel wanted to facepalm. He had a guess that the goal of this group of people was probably, maybe, adrenaline. However, adrenocortical hormones are regulated by the hypothalamus-adrenopituitary-adrenocortical axis, and adrenomedullary hormones are directly controlled by sympathetic preganglionic fibers. That is, they start with the encouragement spell, the horror spell might also work, and they might find a bunch of things. CRH, corticotropin-releasing hormone, VP, vasopressin, GC, glucocorticoids, norepinephrine, catecholamine hormones, etc. Find the adrenaline in these gadgets, and then clarify its conduction and control methods. Don't just read a few lines in the book. These conclusions usually mean the lives of many researchers. Well, let them work hard. When will I mention it to Lin N and let them try to test the adrenal glands? After all, you can't just take the things of the necromancers for nothing, right? Gretel took a deep breath. He smiled and said to Jelaya, "It's okay. There are already many things that can be used. For example, methods for testing various components in blood. It seems that they use some kind of light. Many different substances have been measured. You can continue to use it. Do a good job of elimination, eliminate some known substances, and then compare the changes in the proportion of ingredients before and after casting. You can almost find it out. These magicians are really good. I remember that when I measured blood potassium, I had to do it entirely by hand. Now, they have developed something similar to a liquid phase mass spectrometer, and they have also defined a lot of various substances. Although most of them don't know what they are used for, a lot of information can be measured with just one identification technique, which is great." Jelaya tried her best to restrain herself from complaining, and ran away to do research while crying. Soon, patients who came to the hospital for medical treatment, especially those who had no money to pay for treatment and relied on the hospital's free charity treatment, were asked to sign a consent form. During the diagnosis and treatment period, receive one charm human spell. At the same time, blood needs to be drawn once before and after casting the spell, not much, no more than 5 milliliters. Of course, it's okay not to sign. If you don't sign, you won't be able to enjoy free medical care. Sometimes, many patients don't have that many choices. Are we going to have to do spell casting and blood drawing too? The young female mage, Jennifer Clyde, asked curiously. She didn't rely on the hospital's charity treatment, but half of her treatment costs were reimbursed by the Magic Council, the so-called medical insurance. Jelaya smiled and shook her head. "Ma'am, you are a valued guest of the hospital and participation in the study is not mandatory for you. However, if we do this research, it will also benefit spellcasters in the future. Without the physical data of the caster, relying on the standard data of ordinary people, the casting results may be harmful to you. As the saying goes, I am for everyone and everyone is for me. If a new diagnosis and treatment method is only tested on men aged 19 to 59, then it is unpredictable what side effects it will have on children under 18, the elderly, and women. It does not mean that there will definitely be strong side effects, but the therapists do not have the data at hand to know what the side effects are, how strong the side effects are, and what are the side effects that are different from those in men. Just like when pregnant women are sick, many drugs cannot be used. This does not mean that these drugs will definitely cause great harm. There are many drugs, but no phase 3 clinical trials have been conducted on pregnant women. Of course, the medical ethics of conducting drug experiments on pregnant women is another story. As for extraordinary beings and ordinary people, not only are they two completely different creatures, they are definitely very different. Treatment methods that have been tested on ordinary people may not necessarily be effective on extraordinary people, or the effect may be relatively poor. The female mage Jennifer smiled, flew out a secret mark instead of a signature, and then extended her arm generously. Jalaya smiled gratefully at her. Thank you. The secret lies in the fact that these days, she is getting signatures from patients one by one and taking blood one by one. She is almost making herself look like a fool. 200 blood samples were taken today alone. Her research team is really going to expand. On her own, she was completely overwhelmed with processing blood samples, throwing identification spells, taking records, and making comparisons. She was almost running out of spells to cast. Asking for a monthly ticket. Asking for a monthly ticket. During the double monthly voting period, please vote for cats as soon as possible. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1851. Jalaya's request for more manpower was half past. Greed allowed her to seek out like-minded colleagues in the hospital with whom she could conduct research. It doesn't matter if she has 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, as long as she can ensure the progress of her research, she can find as many as she wants. As for whether she can still maintain the leadership of the project after finding these people, that is another matter. If she couldn't keep it, Greed would not leave all the results to her. Among the several works that are tied together, it is already good to give her one, and it may not even be the one that ranks first among the works. So, Jalaya invited a necromancer to help process the blood samples. A transformation mage helps release identification techniques and record data. At the same time, I found a junior sister from the conjuration department to help talk to clients, and led a few nurses to draw blood. Once the task is broken down in this way, the burden on her is finally less heavy, and she can have time to analyze the research results and try to make some achievements. This analysis immediately revealed something interesting. Sir, 85% of the subjects who received Charm Humanity showed significant increases in these substances. However, we don't know which of these substances is related to the sudden delivery of pregnant women. Gretel stared into her eyes and said nothing. Jalaya stepped back step by step as he watched, retreating from the desk to the wall. When her calf touched the sofa, she suddenly realized. This is for me to think about. Let me think about where to break the situation next and which direction to research in order to draw the conclusions she needs. I know. I'll study those pregnant women, she bowed deeply. I will collect blood from them and compare their blood samples to see if the same substances are elevated as in the same previous batch of subjects. Like you said, samples are taken in every period and compared at every stage of delivery. Wow, what a lot of work. Currently, around 50 women are admitted to the hospital every day. When each woman is admitted to the hospital, her blood must be collected, tested, and data recorded during the first, second, and third stages of labor. At least half of the mothers had natural births, and they had to work day and night, which meant that she had to get up day and night to draw their blood for blood tests. Fortunately, she herself had been in the obstetrics department. Otherwise, she would have burrowed into the delivery room with her head sharpened, and come to draw blood when she was in agony. Aunt Angela, who was in charge of the obstetrics department, would have beaten her to death without anyone else. In this way, she can't do so much work alone, so it seems that she has to bring in 2, maybe 3, obstetrics partners to join in this project. Gretel nodded slightly. Jalia's face lit up and she quickly exited. While walking quickly along the corridor, I was mentally drafting. By the time I reached the obstetrics building, I had already planned the entire plan. Lucia, she grabbed her little sister who was the most talkative when she was working in the obstetrics department. You have to help me. I'm writing a paper assigned by Archmage Nordmark. I need to collect information. Can you do me this favor and add your name to the paper later? First or second work, Lucia was greatly moved, and her bright green eyes suddenly brightened. Jalia, you are rich now, but don't forget your friends. At least 2, Jalia raised her hands flat in front of her chest, making the standard posture when entering the operating room after brushing her hands, and swore to the little sister. The first game must have been assigned by the Archmage Nordmark himself. If I said I would give you 1 game, I would be lying to you, but at least 2 games. The Archmage won't care about 2 games or less. If I add a name, I should be able to do it. Arrive. The secret is, if you don't even add your name to the second work, I will be stuck in writing this paper. Once I write it, I won't be able to send it out. Even if I send it out, people will say it is plagiarism. This kind of oath is quite vicious for researchers. Lucia was indeed moved by her eyes moved, and she dragged Jalia into the corner of the corridor, an empty room where buckets, mops, and rags were placed. Come on, let's discuss it. What do you want me to do? Can 2 people do it? The 2 girls touched their heads and discussed for a while spell fluctuations continued to come from the small room. Finally, Lucia came out with a grimace. You have to give me some time, that spell is too difficult, I'm not familiar with it yet, and I still have to test the ingredients you specified. Oh my god. Then you have to hurry up, is 2 days enough? Not enough? 3 days. No more. No matter how much more I do, I will do it myself and I will collect the data myself. Okay, 3 days is all. You must learn this spell. Don't worry, leave it to me. Jalia worked hard for 3 days by herself, and worked hard with Lucia for another 3 days, collecting more than 100 pieces of data. Comparing the two girls looked at each other in confusion. Why are there so many? If they have read obstetrics and gynecology like Greet, they will know that during pregnancy, a variety of hormones, enzymes, neurotransmitters, and cytokines will increase at a high speed to maintain normal pregnancy functions. These various hormones include human chorionic gonadotropin, HCG, human placental lactogen, estrogen, progesterone, oxytocinase, thermostable alkaline phosphatase, and various cells factors and growth factors. For estrogen alone, estrone, estradiol, and estriol can be measured. They compared the differences between the blood of pregnant women and normal people, and came up with a long list. That is a matter of course. Just compare it with the list selected by charming humans, there are several kinds. Wait a minute, let's first compare the 3 stages of labor to see if any hormone rises particularly fast. Archmage Nordmark specifically reminded that it must be meaningful to test these 3 stages separately. They compared the data again and found 2 suspected substances, which they could no longer filter out. Jalia looked uneasy and held it up to hand over the account. Master Nordmark, I really don't know what to do with the last step. There's no way to throw charm human to a pregnant woman. Oh, it looks like I found it. Greet glanced at the table she had made, then flipped through a few pages to check the relevant raw data. In this case, you go find someone from the charm control department, and ask what charm humans and charm animals have in common. If it can be proven that these two spells have something in common and the substances they produce are the same, then I'll throw it at the female rabbit as hard as I can. Jalia's eyes lit up and she subconsciously screamed. Although I have to find people and learn, the hope of success is right in front of me. Please give me a monthly ticket. Please double the monthly pass. The double monthly ticket period starts today. If you still have monthly tickets, please vote for cats as soon as possible. If there are 4,000 votes in the end, Mau Mau will add 6 chapters, if there are 5,000 votes, it will add 8 chapters. Everyone, please work harder. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1852. Charming Humans and Charming Animals. From humans to animals, and then from animals to humans? Why are you tossing this topic? You don't want your life. Gretel said, go find that person. Of course, Jalia couldn't be so rough as to bump into him and ask questions to the high-level mage of the magic control system. She first found her friend Chris, who was also a dormitory friend in the Magic Academy. When she graduated, one was assigned to the Conjuration Department and the other to the Charm Control Department. Unexpectedly, her little friend's words scared her so much that her heart beat wildly. What's wrong? You can touch this topic? You want to die, but I don't want to die yet. It turns out that every school of thought has some traditional academic disputes. Magicians have long-term disagreements and are divided into several groups to attack each other. The more famous ones are the direction of light magic in the plastic energy system, the wave theory and the particle theory. A group of great mages are competing to publish papers. You deny my point of view, and I deny your point of view. I don't know how many heads exploded along the way. This academic competition is no less dangerous than the struggle between the Magic Council and the glorious Holy See. As for the Confusion and Control Department, a traditional dispute is whether humans and animals have anything in common, and whether there are any spells that can be equally applied to humans and animals. It is conceivable that the difference and connection between charming humans and charming animals are representative of this dispute. Moreover, this traditional academic dispute has another characteristic. Of course, the great masters can study hard and devote their whole lives to research, but what if an outsider rashly participates and expresses their opinions rashly? The two factions can join forces and beat that ignorant outsider to death. Are you able to participate in our academic disputes? Did you understand the paper? Have you understood all the previous research results? Have you figured out your academic ideas? No. I dare to speak without you. I hate the noobs who get involved without knowing anything the most. Although the Magic Council does not have the word civilian science, well, magic research is extremely dangerous, and all civil science subjects are basically dead. This is why there are no civil science subjects in chemistry and engineering, but, the hatred for civil science, it's almost the same. Outsiders who don't understand this academic context, as well as the little guys within the school who have learned a rough idea but haven't figured it out yet, want to get involved without authorization and beat them to death, so as not to create some weird theories to hinder the school. Of course, the charm control system is not like the evocation system, and its direct combat effectiveness and lethality are not as strong. However, when it comes to making people die, the control system is the expert among experts, which makes their deterrence even stronger than the evocation system in terms of internal struggle. After all, the plasticity system really can't beat you to death, while the confusion and control system can really make you want to die. Ah, is that so? Listening to Chris talk about the whole story, especially the examples of several young mages who rashly tried to get involved and were punished to death by their mentors, There are newcomers who don't know how to live or die every year. Jelia's face also changed. What? What should I do about this? Archmage Nodmark asked me to study it. Ah! Chris suddenly let out a breath. She leaned back far away and stretched out on the sofa. I forgot that you have grown up now and are holding me in your lap. If the Archmage Nordmark wants to study, then study it. With the Archmage supporting you, what else is there to be afraid of? There are no taboos. Wow, it's good to have a big boss behind you. The boss can study whatever he wants to study, he can study whatever he wants, and he can write whatever paper he wants to write. Unlike little pawns like them, they had no one to back them up, so they had to be cautious and not dare to make a wrong step. Gretel didn't know about the twists and turns of the charm control system, and even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Isn't it the difference and connection between humans and animals? When I was doing medical research, I conducted many experiments on animals. Almost all treatment methods must be tested on animals before they can be used on humans. Besides, I have even seen the wave-particle duality of light. First, the senior sister found a way, then the teacher summarized it, and now the two bosses are running hard in this direction. The dispute between the particle theory and the wave theory has been put to an end, not to mention the mere academic controversy over the control system. With the support of the big boss, Jaelia went to visit Mrs. Alva from the Charm and Control Department, and indeed received a lot of guidance. After returning to the hospital, she spent 2 days reviewing charm animals and charm humans again, especially dismantling and comparing the composition of these two spells, looking for common parts in the spell configurations. Then, they started to catch female rabbits, pregnant female rabbits, and female rabbits in labor, collected blood again and again, and threw charming animals at them. Blood draw. Blood test. Blood draw. Blood test. Blood draw. Blood test. Draw blood again, draw blood again, draw blood again. Oh, why does the female rabbit give birth so fast? Which one is the first stage of labor, which one is the second stage of labor? I can't even keep up with the blood drawing. Fortunately, there aren't many other things in the Oak Grove Hospital's Research Institute, and there are the most experimental animals. Rabbits give birth very quickly, so as long as they are cleaned, disinfected, and fed normally, you can have as much or as little as you need. Within 10 days, there were 50 female rabbits that had given birth, and they were experimented one by one, which exhausted her to death. I'm so envious. If only I could give birth to a child as easily as a female rabbit. I can't do it anymore. My mental power is about to be exhausted again. I have to meditate quickly. Fortunately, during the high-intensity research period, the meditation room can be used first. Jaelia, hurry up. These female rabbits are going to be used to train new people. Only when the rabbits are experienced in cesarean section can they be put on the sows, and only when the sows are experienced in cesarean sections can they go to the operating room to pull hooks. Come on, come on, come on, wait a moment, it will be ready soon. 5 minutes, 5 tubes of blood, blood drawing, blood testing, recording, and sending the female rabbit away. Jaelia fell back with a dying breath, then struggled to get up and crawled to the meditation room. It's really impossible. If I don't meditate anymore, I'm really going to die. She almost fell into the meditation room. Close the door, plop down on the comfortable and soft sofa, close your eyes, and a gentle magic power immediately surrounds her, hugging her, nourishing her little by little, and reviving the dry mental power. Active, active, more and more active, until it spins rapidly, with a cool breath, covering the whole body, especially the brain. Jaelia seemed to hear a soft pop sound, like a bubble bursting, or as if some barrier had been broken. A much stronger force than before surged forward. Did I break through? I have a breakthrough. I have broken through to level 6. Hey, casting spells to the maximum every day, then recovering to the maximum, lying down until you are so tired that you want to die and then recovering again, repeating this, is indeed the only way to advance quickly. But generally speaking, there are not many people who can do such cruel things to themselves. Even if they do, they may not have convenient recovery methods. You can use the meditation room if you want. Sure enough, it's good to do research with the boss. All resources are sufficient, which is much better than struggling on her own. It was so wise to insist on I wonder why that day in front of the Archmage Nordmark. Jaelia meditated for about half an hour, sorting out and gathering her mental energy, and quickly climbed out to continue working. Blood draw, blood test, blood draw, blood test, blood draw, blood test. Master Nordmark. I've done it. The female rabbit does have the same substance as human beings, the identification technique can identify the same information. Moreover, it also grows a lot with pregnancy and childbirth, and reaches the peak during childbirth. The highest peak. What will happen if you cast the spell repeatedly with high intensity? When asked this question, Jaelia was suddenly shocked. As if a basin of ice water was poured on her head, she slowly lowered her head, her voice full of sadness. When the intensity of the spell is cast to a certain level, or in other words, if the spell is cast repeatedly to increase the concentration of the substance in the body to a certain level, the female rabbit that has not yet reached the birth stage will give birth early. I continue to cast spells and increase the concentration of that substance again, and the female rabbit's uterine contractions will be intensified and excessively intensified. On the contrary, it will be difficult to give birth to a child. She spoke slowly, barely able to hold back her tears, and there was a trace of sobs in her voice. I'm sorry, Your Majesty the Archmage, I was the one who harmed the mother. It was me who harmed her, it turns out that I really harmed her. Magicians of the charm and control system have never released charm humans on pregnant women before, but unlike her, they didn't release several spells in a row. Moreover, the other party may not be in the third trimester of pregnancy. As the pregnancy progresses, the concentration of that substance in the body of pregnant women gradually increases. By the third trimester, it is about 3 to 4 times that of normal people. And the spell charm humans will also increase the concentration of this substance in the body. 3 or 4 times, it reaches 10 times in one breath, which is the same as the concentration of this substance in the mother's blood during the delivery stage. Thus, labor was triggered, and excessively enhanced contractions were triggered. The baby was not doing well to begin with, suffering from intrauterine hypoxia. If the uterine contractions were too strong, it would be even more impossible for the baby to be born. Whether it was due to severe hypoxia or some other reason, even if he was sent to the hospital and had an emergency cesarean section, he could not be saved. Greed let out a long sigh. This reason was not surprising to him, or in other words, Jelia's many studies from beginning to end only confirmed his speculation. He took a breath and said softly, "It's not all your fault, it's because we know too little about the medical field. Well, things have happened, you should think about other things. For example, what is the use of this research? How can we turn this into a good thing? How can we use this achievement to help pregnant women and postpartum women? Thanks to the Strong Sea Monster for the 10,000 starting coins reward. Thanks to Book Friend A and I for the 100 starting coins reward. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival everyone. Please double the monthly pass. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right?" Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1853. 10,000 rewards for the Strong Sea Monster will be added in 2 chapters. This issue of Life once again caused a sensation in the magic world. We found that charming humans will stimulate the increase of a certain substance in the human body. And this substance will improve tension, anxiety, depression, and other problems, regulate emotions, and relieve stress. We believe that charm humans makes people think that the caster is a trustworthy friend and ally, and the mechanism may be related to this substance. Ms. Almeida, The Legend of the Control System, Philosopher's Rose, looked at the paper carefully, her eyes passing over every table and every blood sample data, her expression extremely focused. She nodded, shook her head, sometimes smiled slightly, and sometimes a faint magic light danced on her fingertips. Just by discovering this substance, I feel that the mechanism of charming humans may be related to certain substances. The evidence for this speculation is not enough. It still requires a lot of research and a lot of verification. However, this is only the first paragraph, and there is much more to come. Judging from the abstract of the paper, the following content is the focus of Little Greet's research. We found that among the several substances that charm human stimulates to increase, one of them will cause violent uterine contractions when it reaches a certain concentration in the body of pregnant women. For pregnant women who are about to give birth, this substance will make her quickly entering production status. Is that so? Is this what Little Greet wants to study and know? Ms. Almeida curled her lips with interest. What kind of magic activates a certain substance, what is the mechanism of the influence of this substance on consciousness, and what kind of magic works on the human body? The little guy is not very interested, nor does he really want to know. He devoted himself wholeheartedly to this unknown substance. We released charm animals into laboratory rabbits, and in the rabbits we measured some of the same substances that we find in humans. After many studies, we found that the rabbit posterior pituitary gland is the organ that secretes the substance, and the content of this substance is also particularly large in the posterior pituitary gland. How was this studied? Ms. Almeida looked at it curiously and couldn't help laughing. No wonder we have to find spellcasters from the charm and control system to join the game. This method is really the most familiar to the charm and control system. Over the years, the puzzle control system has accumulated numerous research methods in the process of studying the brain. First, of course, a dense silver mesh is woven to cover the person's head. Secondly, the person's hair is shaved, and then densely packed electrodes are attached to the head to measure changes in brain waves. Third, the scalp is punctured and various electrode needles are inserted into it. This method is indeed very painful, but some subjects who are poor and take money to cooperate with the treatment, as well as those criminals and prisoners, and no opportunity to choose. Finally, of course, uncover the skull and expose the brain. What are you thinking? The methods of spellcasters are much more elegant than this. Thanks to their good relationship with the evocation department over the years, the evocation department helped them design a very sophisticated method. Use electromagnetic waves to weave a fine and dense net to wrap the brain, or a certain part of the brain. Then, the caster releases the magic control spell on the subject and observes whether the spell has any effect. Using this method, the charm control department has successfully determined which part of the brain is affected by many spells. The left lobe or the right lobe of the brain, or the cerebellum, or other parts of the brain, or the pituitary gland or something. Like this time, they used an invisible electromagnetic net to cover various parts of the rabbit's brain, and then determined that the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland was the receiving organ of charming animals and the secreting organ of this substance. The next step is simple: simply and crudely cast the spell on the rabbit, remove the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland, dissolve the dry powder in water, and inject it into the pregnant rabbit. After the injection concentration reached a certain amount, it was observed that the pregnant female rabbit that was not full term began to give birth. This looks like the work of the necromancer. Ms. Almeida sighed. This legend of the enchantment and control system is quite indifferent to the necromancy system due to the usual delicacy and sensitivity of the enchantment and control system. Even Little Greet can't help but murmur a little, why is such a good child so close to those bones? Yes, He has not entered the necromancy system, but his way of thinking is too similar to that of the necromancy system. Even Ms. Almeida must admit that these clattering cuts and dissections are still very useful in proving that a certain trace substance stimulated by charming humans can help pregnant women initiate labor. Take the extract of the posterior pituitary gland of a giving birth mother rabbit. Thanks to the fact that rabbits give birth to several rabbits at a time, the timing of cutting rabbits is relatively easy, and inject it into the pregnant female rabbit. Then take the extract of the posterior pituitary gland from a non-pregnant female rabbit or even a non-pregnant male rabbit that has released charm animals or even charm humans, and inject it into the pregnant female rabbit. It can be proven that when charm animal and charm human are released enough times, the latter's ability to promote female rabbits to give birth is equivalent to the former. Little Gretel, does he know what he has done? Ms. Almeida breathed a sigh of relief, her eyes far away. In her opinion, the most important result of this research is not to promote childbirth or anything like that, nor is it like Greet was struggling with before, why the unfortunate lady lost her child. Rather, it is a very critical factor. Certain spells of the charm control system will stimulate material changes inside the human body, and these changes will have an impact on the human body. As for what kind of impact it has, and whether this impact is related to the recipient being more likely to trust the performer, that needs to be studied separately. So, how about raising a group of rabbits in the Tower of Songs, and then injecting the pituitary gland extract of the birthing female rabbits into the subjects to see their reactions? In any case, if it can prove the relationship between magic and matter and human body, it is all the result of the girl herself, and it is at least worthy of a new magician award. But now, Ms. Almeida recalled the signature at the beginning of the paper and shook her head. 3 works in one, including a conjuration healer, a necromancer, and a control magician. Little Gretel is the corresponding author. In this way, it is not possible for 3 works in one, especially the first one, to make the reviewers of the award feel that the methods of this project are all our own, and the Nordmark mage only provided the experimental conditions bar. By the way, regarding the relationship between magic and matter, the confusion and control system, can we continue to study in this direction? I will invite little Gretel to talk about it another day. He is already doing it, so don't repeat it here. Someone come! She shouted. Immediately, a young mage on duty rushed over from outside. Sir, what's the matter? Have you read this paper? Ms. Almeida handed over Life. The young mage watched and listened to her ask. I remember that we were also doing research on magic control and matter. How far have we gone? Have we made anything yet? Ah, not yet. This mage on duty is Ms. Almeida's disciple and is also equivalent to her secretary. He follows up the academic progress of the school for her on a daily basis. He answered quickly after hearing the words. I was doing inspiration technique and fear technique before, and I have screened out 7 or 8 kinds of substances. I am stuck at the stage where I don't know which one is the key substance, and I don't know where it is secreted. A few days ago, Master Lin N chatted with the necromancers working there and suggested that they try using the accessory glands on the kidneys. Brat. The legend of the control system was stunned for a moment, then laughed and cursed. What was Master Lin N's idea to come out sooner rather than later? Seeing that they have been stuck here for more than a year, they have to wait for little Gretel to come back before coming out. Whose idea was this, do you even need to ask? It seems that I really need to have a chat with little Gretel. When she left the message to Oak Grove Hospital, Gretel had already made a special trip to visit the Earl of Sutherland with a new issue of Life. Regarding the previous fetal death incident, he said seriously. According to our research, the loss of the child by the granddaughter-in-law is indeed directly related to Miss Gialia's excessive release of charming humans. We hope that we can compensate this damaged mother as much as possible, and also compensate your family. As he spoke, he pushed over a magic crystal card. The anonymous magic crystal card issued by the Parliament is specially used to record contribution points. This magic crystal card is dark purple in color and trimmed with silver. It looks like it starts with 10,000 contribution points. We know that no amount of money can compensate a mother for the grief of losing her child, nor can it completely erase the physical trauma. So, please do not refuse. The Earl of Sutherland had long since given up his claim. As long as the other party's therapist didn't intentionally harm anyone or cast the spell incorrectly, he didn't want to be held accountable for it. Instead of arguing with people that although this is our fault, it is mainly because we know too little about medicine or it is not entirely our responsibility that the child is not well, it is better to let go and sell Nordmark. The mage has a face. A man who is almost destined to become a legend. Others want to sell favors, but they can't. If we don't make friends now, when will we make friends? Especially for this reason, Archmage Nordmark also launched a research to find out this matter clearly. He didn't know how much this research cost, but just looking at the number of spellcastings involved in the paper, he knew that the research funding was definitely a large number. You don't have to compensate. He pushed the magic crystal card back resolutely. The child is not in good shape to begin with. This is not your fault. How can I ask you to compensate? This matter ends here. You don't need to mind too much. A Sky Knight pressed the magic crystal card and slowly pushed it forward. Gretel really didn't have the strength to push it back. Gretel thought. I knew it, fortunately I have plan B, otherwise, this wouldn't be settled today. He smiled, took out another stack of paper from under the paper and pushed it over. So, would you like to take a look at this plan? If you are interested, can we cooperate in this direction? Thanks to @Scarlacy for the 10,000 starting coins. Thanks to @Zeeler for the 100 starting coins. Asking for a monthly ticket. Please double the monthly ticket, meow 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 meow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1854. Instead of giving money, you can cooperate. Take the money prepared for compensation as a shareholding of the Earl family. Interesting. The Earl of Sutherland thought so, picked up the manuscript, and read it carefully. As soon as I took a look at the title, I subconsciously wanted to frown. Artificial production and promotion of oxytocin. Oxytocin. Yes, it is the substance written in the paper in life, which is activated by charming humans and can cause mothers to quickly enter the state of labor. Because it was discovered for the first time and no one had named it before, the Archmage Nordmark simply and crudely named it oxytocin based on its effects. How is this thing artificially produced? How is this thing artificially produced? What is the use of it? Is it harmful to people? Earl Sutherland complained in his heart and turned the page. This time, without reading the text, my eyes felt dark. One, study the method of artificially extracting oxytocin from animals. No, isn't it? Haven't you researched it yet? Is this compensation going to be used as an investment? Is that enough? I heard that research on this thing is a bottomless pit, especially for magicians. When doing research, it is just a matter of grabbing and scattering. Money is not regarded as money, and diamonds can be piled up and used as firewood. Why do we need to extract it? He simply folded the documents together, pretending to be I am a big boss, I don't understand what your magicians are doing, and sincerely asked for advice. So, what exactly does this project do? Your Excellency, Archmage, can you explain it to me? It's really difficult. When I saw this, my mind was already buzzing. Alas, you look like a big boss. Only a big boss would push down the plan/project introduction/report in his hand and tell the other person directly, I won't read it, but you can tell it to me. But Gretel is here to repair relationships, not to quarrel. Therefore, even if he was complaining in his heart, he would smile and explain to the other party. It is not allowed to inject things from animals, whether they are blood, organs, or brains, directly into the human body, or into the human body after being ground or dissolved. It will cause great danger, to a large extent. People will die. Well, that was consistent with what he knew, thought the Count. In the past, when they were on the battlefield or taking risks, some of their companions had lost too much blood. They had no choice but to inject animal blood into their companions. Then, these comrades in arms all died without exception. So, we have to think of a way to extract the active ingredients from it. The method of extraction needs to be studied by magicians. So this is the money. Research funding. The Nordmark Archmage in front of him spread his hands and said very confidently. Well, research funding. The Count glanced at the magic crystal card suspiciously. 10,000 contribution points, is that enough? It depends on how to use it. Greet came prepared and answered very happily. It should be enough for ordinary use. I will watch them and ask them to only use cheap refining materials. If they want to spend money lavishly, such as making a limited wishing spell if they can't be refined, they will not be allowed. Can you control them? I will not reimburse research funds. This is so reasonable to say. The Earl of Sutherland couldn't help but laugh, his white beard and hair trembling slightly with laughter. Why does this 18th level Archmage look like a child making trouble when he swears so solemnly? Feasibility, or in other words, the possibility of successful research and development, was overwhelmed by these 10,000 contribution points. But Sutherland still had questions. But why make artificial extracts? Find a magician, find a magic control mage, cast the spell a few times, and it will be solved. It is safe and convenient, and it also avoids inaccurate extraction techniques, transportation and preservation processes, metamorphosis or something. For the Earl, this question came out of his mouth without even thinking about it. It wasn't until he saw Archmage Nordmark's face turn gloomy, revealing a sigh and compassion, that he realized what he had thought wrong. My lord, not every pregnant woman lives in Nevis, and not every pregnant woman. The casters in the towns, temples, mage towers, and treatment centers where they live can use the charm human spell. Although this is only a first level spell, but when he was in Heartland City, because the mage tower did not store this spell, he had no chance to learn it. He is like this, and how many small town spellcasters are like this? As for the temple, it is always difficult for priests to learn magic, especially those that are not in common with magic in the divine magic system, and there is no guarantee that they will be able to learn it. However, the smaller the towns and the more remote the villages, the more difficult it is for women and children there to obtain medical care. Many times they can only have their lives checked. However, if we can extract suitable drugs and put them in treatment centers in small towns, then the possibility of getting help for women who have passed their due date but have not been able to start labor will be much greater. Your Majesty, what do you think? Giving medicine to pregnant women, whether it is oral, injection, or intravenous drip, is still quite difficult and requires a suitable and trained person, but it is already much easier than learning charming humans. Even if the Sutherland territory where he is located is looking for a magician who can charm humans, it's not that it's difficult to find, but it doesn't mean that you can definitely get it by just going to the mage tower and pulling in a random magician. After all, each magician studies in a different direction. The Earl thought for a moment in his mind, nodded first, and then shook his head. You are a great man, Archmage Nordmark. I didn't expect that your focus is on those poor women who don't get care, but I have a question. You asked me to participate in investment. Can you make money from these women? Not only can't you make any money, but you also have to give it away for free. Free treatment, free medicine, no charge for hospitalization, and food expenses may be subsidized. Greed whispered in her heart, smiling broadly. The poorest people may not receive money, but those from well-off families who cannot afford a therapist should be able to receive money. Moreover, we can still dash. He raised his hand, drew a huge circle, and pointed to the distant east. Sell this medicine to the mainland. Under the rule of the glorious Holy See, those pregnant women cannot get the Holy See's magical help. If there is a medicine at this time, I can sell it for as much as I want. The tentacles of the Parliament can follow and extend outward with life-saving medicine. It is the most convenient. In recent years, with the help of penicillin, the work of the Parliament in mainland China has been carried out much more smoothly. Ah, that's right. The Count thought for a moment and smiled slowly. If this road can be opened, it means that the family has an additional industry. Although you may not be able to make a lot of money at first, with steady flow, you can build a stable long-term relationship with the Parliament, the alchemists, and the Nordmark Archmage. This business is definitely profitable. As for the loss, this compensation was originally free, he had no intention of asking for it. Your suggestion is very wise, Archmage Nordmark. I accept your invitation to cooperate. However, I have a suggestion. This kind of medicine can actually be sold in China, and it can be sold at a high price. Gretel raised his brows and leaned forward. The old Count smiled slightly, his white eyebrows trembling, his smile was deep and cunning. Archmage, do you want to have an unfamiliar spellcaster release charm human on your mother who is giving birth, or have a therapist use a medicine produced by Oak Forest Hospital on the mother, the same effect? Which one do you choose? Ah! Gretel suddenly realized. This is really his blind spot. He has always been accustomed to using his credibility and the management of the hospital to guarantee that all spellcasters in the hospital are trustworthy and will not harm the patients. However, for those nobles, wealthy businessmen, and rich people in other places, if an unfamiliar magician is allowed to release charming humans to pregnant women, who knows what instructions they will give to pregnant women? That's a magic control spell. Confusion, control, confusion, control, the focus is on control. Although he still trusts magic, it is clean, hygienic, and pollution-free, with no impurities or deterioration during production, transportation, and storage. This is best deployed together with treatment centers. Therapists who have not received my training will not know how to use the drugs after they get them. Then even the treatment center, no need to rush. Earl Sutherland sat up straight with interest. Speaking of the treatment center, look, can I build a treatment center in my territory and send a few therapists there? The temple's healing power is always not enough. Greet instantly smiled heartily. Not only the earldom, but also the entire kingdom of Kent, including 52 counties, wanted to set up treatment centers. In the county town, in the small city below the county town, in the countryside below the small city. Of course, things have to be done step by step. Setting up a treatment center also requires negotiating with the local nobles one by one. 52 counties means at least 52 great lords at the earl and duke level, and they have to be convinced one by one. Take it easy. There's a long way to go. When oxytocin is produced, he will have one more top product in his hand. Well, now there is mannitol to reduce intracranial pressure, and penicillin to suppress most infections. After the adrenaline is produced and several powerful new drugs are made, his treatment centers will be opened everywhere, at least in the county, and there will be no obstacles, right? At least Gretel was considerate. If he were a local lord, he would definitely be willing to donate a piece of land to the treatment center and some gold coins in exchange for the convenience of medical treatment for his family. Well, what is the next research and development target? Insulin. Lipid-lowering drugs. Or go and see how the research on atherosclerosis and vascular calcification is going on at the Grand Duke of Rimmer. Asking for a monthly ticket. Please double the monthly pass. It's the last day to ask for monthly tickets. There are only 3,300 votes so far. If it does not reach 4,000 votes during the double period, the cat will be very sad. If you still have monthly votes, vote for cats. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1855. Scarlacy will be rewarded with more rewards. Gretel signed a magic agreement with Earl Sutherland, so he doesn't need to worry about the rest. He happily ran back to his mage tower and slapped the papers and agreements on the table. Mr. Norwood. Sir, what's the matter? Mr. Norwood, I have secured investment, and the subsequent negotiations with the Alchemy Guild will depend on you. He tricked the pharmacists of the Alchemy Guild into working as coolies to study how to artificially extract oxytocin. Negotiate an agreement with the Alchemy Guild. After the oxytocin is artificially extracted, Oak Forest Hospital will purchase how much and what the purchase price will be. How much is the external sales, how much is Oak Grove Hospital's share during the external sales process, and how much is Earl's Palace's share? Including controlling the research plans of pharmacists and supervising them not to spend research funds indiscriminately. Of course, these tasks are done by Mr. Norwood, a 15th level transformation master, a famous alchemist, and the inventor of various rubber products. The boss left the shop, and Mr. Norwood had no choice but to read through the paper and engage in business negotiations diligently. And Gretel himself, no doubt, happily plunged into basic research. Your Majesty the Grand Duke, regarding the problems of fat accumulation, blood vessel narrowing, and arteriosclerosis in blood vessels, how is the progress of your research here? Research progress? There is no research progress at all. Grand Duke Rimmel was filled with resentment. Moving from Dragon Island to Nevis, his physical problems have not been solved, his salary has not increased, he cannot suck human blood or the blood of high-energy monsters, and his residence is too cramped. Master Nordmark also wanted to ask, is there any research progress? Is there any research progress? You should give me a few people with high blood pressure, high blood lipids, and sclerosis of the arteries. Let me suck a few mouthfuls of blood, chew the blood vessels, and then talk to me about the progress of the research. Well, didn't I tell you this a long time ago? You can't kill people, you can't suck human blood, you can't. Moreover, in this world, humans with high blood pressure, high blood lipids, and high levels of blood vessel calcification are basically rich and powerful people. Don't say that people like this can't be caught casually. Even if they commit crimes and go to jail, their trials and sentences are in full view of the public. They can't just be caught and chewed on your veins. Didn't I tell you to start with animal experiments? If you raise some animals with vascular calcification, you can start research. I can't raise it. The Grand Duke was particularly agitated. That's right, raising animals is such a smelly and annoying thing. He really doesn't need to take action. He only needs to give orders, and naturally there will be low-level spellcasters running around to do the work. But he has to give orders. What animals to raise, how to raise them, what to feed and drink, what kind of treatment the animals need to have. It's all up to him to come up with ideas, all up to him to use his brain. So far, there have been 20 litters of rabbits and 20 cages of rats, and none of the rats or rabbits have shown hyperlipidemia, let alone the deposition of fatty plaques in blood vessels and vascular calcification. There are just endless questions. Your Majesty the Grand Duke, the rabbits don't eat. They usually eat grass. Shouldn't we give them meat? Your Majesty the Grand Duke, the rabbit has diarrhea. Is there too much fat mixed in the grass? Your Majesty the Grand Duke, should we change to a different kind of fat? These mice don't seem to like the smell of butter. Your Majesty the Grand Duke, those rats are banging against the cage again, although it is to make them move less and grow more meat. Is the 5-inch long and 2-inch wide cage too small for them? His Excellency the Grand Duke. Bastard Nordmark Mage. He only said high nutrition, high fat feeding, eat more and move less, you should gain weight quickly, and didn't care about anything else. Leave it all to him. Throw it to him. Throw it to him. What do you think of him, the Grand Duke of Rimmer, the majestic Duke of Blood, a half-legend? Oh, I can't raise it. Gretel sighed softly. Well, it seems like it won't work without his intervention. I thought I could be lazy, tisk. Gretel calmed down and began to look through the animal feeding report, a collection of wrong questions, submitted by the Grand Duke. While watching, he tooted. I only chose mouse and rabbit. Nonsense. Others are more troublesome. When the experimental animals were first determined, Greet said this. Mouse is easier to raise, but it does not have a gallbladder, and its fat metabolism may be different from humans, so it is not easy to develop hyperlipidemia. Rabbits are also easier to raise, but they reproduce a little slower than mice and eat more feed. Pigs, in fact, the eating habits and physiological characteristics of pigs are the most similar to humans, but the growth cycle of pigs is too long, and their breeding takes up space. It would be great if there were many pigs. If you don't care about the cost, you can actually use monkeys, just like we did in the Eagle Country, but monkeys are too troublesome, difficult to catch, and difficult to raise. In the end, the Grand Duke chose mice and rabbits to start with. Nothing else. These two animals occupy a small area and are easy to raise. Moreover, they are already available on Dragon Island, and it is also convenient to bring an airship. Dragon Island is too far north, and no monkeys except Warcraft can survive, but driving dozens of pigs onto the airship? Even if the nature priest helps to control it, the Grand Duke of the vampire clan can't stand that style of painting just thinking about it. However, so far, neither the mouse nor the rabbit has achieved the desired results. Grand Duke Rimmer even felt that by arranging this topic for him, Gretel was displeased with the vampires and was deliberately teasing him. You'd better give me someone. Give me someone, I'll have a taste and I'll give you the answer right away. Are there really no suitable patients? No prisoners? No prisoners of war? Then I'll go to the old continent and catch them myself. One is enough. No way, Greet resisted. Well, the key is not to catch prisoners locally or where to catch patients, but rather not to just catch one to try for the convenience of doing research. In this way, if suitable patients come to see you, you can taste their blood. As for raising animals, let me think about it, and then I will probably give you a method. Troublesome, what are the causes of hyperlipidemia and vascular calcification? What are the high-risk factors? Based on these causes and high-risk factors, what experimental methods can be tried? In addition to high-fat diet, what other medications can intervene? What other surgical methods can intervene? Which drugs are currently available? You don't have to count on warfarin, you don't have to count on vitamin D3, you don't have to count on gene knockout, you don't even have to count on it. When will there be enough gene knockout mice to do whatever experiments you want to do? Greet stayed in seclusion for 3 full days, going back and forth about the contents in the textbook related to hyperlipidemia, atherosclerosis, calcification, etc., especially those related to physiology, pathophysiology, biochemistry, and molecular biology. Look. I took a lot of notes, speculated on more than a dozen methods, and crossed out 7 or 8 methods. The notebook was a mess. On the 4th day, he finally felt confident and sat down in front of the Grand Duke. Don't say I don't care about you. Then, try these methods. Grand Duke Rimmer picked up the manuscript and took a look at it, and the corner of his mouth twitched. After reading it all from beginning to end, I sighed sincerely. They say you are a kind-hearted healer, but you are so cruel, even more cruel than our vampires. Gretel. Is this a thing? Ah, is this a thing? We torture these experimental animals all in order to find suitable treatments without causing human suffering. My charity is aimed at humans. As for animals, well, I can only say that they are not humans. Grand Duke Rimmer held the manuscript and went to work, struggling. He slapped the plan given by Gretel in front of his spellcaster, which immediately caused a burst of exclamation. Remove part of the kidney? How much? At least one? Your Excellency the Grand Duke, are you sure that if one kidney is removed, the rat can still live? I don't care whether I can live or not. Grand Duke Rimmer rolled his eyes. Anyway, this is the experimental plan given by your great Nordmark Archmage. Cut one kidney, then cut the remaining one into quarters, 1/3, half, 3/4. As long as you can't cut it to death, cut it to death. Under the Grand Duke, a necromancer jumped up. I'll do this project. Give me 50 rats. Make sure you cut it quickly and well, and you won't kill a rat because of slippery hands. Entire project team, rightward arrow. Rightward arrow. Is he really worthy of being a necromancer? I get excited when I hear a knife being used, and I get excited when I hear cutting up living things. Cutting off a bunch of organs and still not dying is simply the highest challenge. Okay, the kidney failure team is yours. The Grand Duke calmly threw out one item, and then looked at the second one. The next group is the tobacco extract group. Take the tobacco extract and try feeding, gavage, intramuscular injection, intravenous injection, and high-fat diet to observe the situation. Who will do it? This tobacco extract is so harmful. In the conference room, two therapists quietly put out their pipes. Finally, a natural priest was reluctantly pushed out. What, do I have to give birth to tobacco myself? The project team didn't even give me the budget to buy tobacco. The next group is the calcium chloride induction group. The test animals are given a large amount of calcium chloride, fed, intramuscular injection, intravenous injection. Of course, you can also cut open the stomach, expose the aorta, and soak it with calcium chloride solution. Then can we actively damage the blood vessels of experimental animals? Use vines to rub the inner wall of the blood vessels, or the outer walls of the blood vessels, to make them more likely to calcify. Can you use electricity, fire, or freezing to damage blood vessels and make them prone to calcification? How do you feel? There are more and more experiments to be done. Thanks to @Red Comet Mars for the reward of 500 starting coins. The last 4 hours. The last 4 hours. There are still 433 votes left to reach 4,000, so please try harder. If the 4,000 votes are not received during the double period, the cat will cry to the ground. Asking for a monthly ticket. P.S. Reference papers for this chapter. Research progress on experimental animal models and methods of atherosclerosis. Study on arterial calcification in mice fed LDLR with high sugar and high fat. Research progress in animal models of vascular calcification. The cat is so tired after watching it, he wants a monthly ticket to comfort him.